pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business, we don't have many minutes.
Yep.
So first order of business is conservation restriction and stewardship for Leonard Farm. And first, you don't,
Reviewed the restriction last time.
yeah, we penalized you the last meeting, so we're gonna get you out of here.
But since then, we have done, town council's finished reviewing. I had one, we've gone through, I think we found everything at this point.
Hopefully.
But I am going to there's a memorandum of understanding that I don't know if I gave you a copy of it last time, but you all have a copy of it now, and I'm sure Vanessa can explain that further, and we can take our votes.
All right, so Vanessa Johnson Hall with Essex County Greenbelt Association. Before you this evening are two items. The final Leonard Conservation Restriction, which does require, because North Andover is a party to the conservation restriction in North Andover, it does require the signature of the Conservation Commission, if you're so inclined this evening. And the second item is a memorandum of agreement between the city and the town, and Greenbelt about stewarding the conservation restriction on the North Andover side. And the memorandum of understanding, it's about 4 pages, I think, and in short, it names Greenbelt as being predominantly responsible for overseeing, monitoring, and enforcement of the conservation restriction over time. So that's what this agreement lays out. It's referred to in the conservation restriction, and it needs to be signed by the Board of Selectmen. And if you're so inclined this evening, then you could make a recommendation that it be signed by the Board of Selectmen. I will be going to the Board of Selectmen's meeting Monday night to present them with the conservation restriction and this memorandum of understanding for their signature.
Very good. Jack, any questions?
No questions.
Al?
No questions.
Yep.
No questions.
I have no questions. Motion.
I will offer the motion, and I will move that we accept and endorse the memorandum of agreement between the town and Essex County Greenbelt with respect to the landed property.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank
So
you.
that's
We also need-
Al and Deb that's recommending that the Board of Selectmen sign the memorandum, is what they wanted on that one.
Amending my motion to include recommendation and request to the Board of Selectmen to accept and sign the agreement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous.
And then the second motion is to approve the acceptance of the CR as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous.
And so you'd like them to sign the original CR?
Yes, that would be great. So I'm sending around 2 copies because one has to be recorded in the North Essex Registry of Deed and one has to be recorded in the South Essex Registry of Deed. You would just mind signing my book. This is just for my internal records. You can just sign that as the chair.
Thank you.
Did you find a pen, Deb?
I did, Jack. Thanks, a wonderful thing. Your boyfriend? What? Yeah. The 2, this one. Papers, papers, and papers.
It's all about the paper.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Aye, Vanessa.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Same to you.
Vanessa.
And before I forget, I'd just like to take a moment and congratulate Jen on the award that she received from,
Oh, well, we'll receive.
will receive. She hasn't officially received.
Has it been voted that,
It's been announced that I will receive the award at the MACC conference.
so our nominations worked?
Your nomination works.
All right. Very good. That's great news.
Mike,
Pe-
Commission. Yeah.
The people of North Andover have no idea what an asset that Jen is. And,
Don't try, you guys, do not try to hire her.
no. 'Cause
There's a memorandum of understanding out there, isn't there?
we'll get on kicking and screaming.
That's right, that's right.
She is the most loved and respected of anyone. Just to let you know, Michael.
There are a lot of deserving people out there, but I'm
But
very
she's the
honored.
most deserving.
Yeah, well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we're all going to be there cheering her on
Yeah.
Yeah.
in March.
That's great news,
Yeah.
great news.
My 2 seconds of glory. It'll be fun. Thanks. It is. It's very nice.
Will this be at the,
At the MACC.
at the Holy Cross meeting?
At the Holy Cross,
We
yeah.
gotta book it now, huh?
We're gonna book it
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
Book it now.
Book it right now.
We'll get Dana. Where's Donna when we need her?
That's right. That's right.
Get you all signed up.
Hey, Wall.
There you go. She's probably choking right now.
Right.
The notice of, abbreviated notice of resource area, 242-1695, 185 Great Point Road.
Oh,
Good evening, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus. This is the second hearing for this property. We filed an ANRAD to get the resource area flags approved that we hung on this property. In the last hearing, we requested a continuance. We hadn't got a file number yet from DEP. Since then, DEP assigned an analyst. We have a file number and there were no comments. I'd be happy to go over the project again, if the plan, if the commission would like.
I don't think so. Jack, any questions?
No.
Yeah?
The only question I ever ask in any ANRAD is I always ask it of Jen. Are you satisfied with the delineation?
Yep, we went out there and reviewed. There wasn't a butter who was here at the last hearing who, because everything was taking so long, didn't get to ask their questions, but they did get a copy of the plan and the filing, and I didn't hear anything else from them at that time, so I don't think anyone in the audience is here on that matter.
Okay.
But I do recommend that you only approve the on-site flags, which I've listed, and then approve the buffer zone shown on-site, the 100-foot buffer zone and the associated subzones.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Motion?
I would move, as recommended by our administrator, to approve the flags as described by Ms. Hughes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a continuance, I know that, right? Salem Street does continue,
And we're also going to continue Ironwood.
right,
I asked for an explanation, but I didn't get one, but I did get a request for continuance.
okay. So we got Salem Street, 242, 1689, Salem Street request to continue till January 11th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And 242, 1688, 30 Ironwood, request to continue to what, to 117?
That would be the same, 11117.
1117.
Second.
All right, we have
Third.
a lot of seconds. Second, third, and fourth, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
It says November 30, just on the,
That's continued from, so we didn't get the
Okay.
cancellation before the agenda was
so the new
posted.
day, okay, gotcha.
So-
All right.
Okay, next one is 242, 1693, 808 Johnson Street.
So this too was just waiting for a file number. I think you'll remember Phil Christensen was here to present this last time. I did, Heidi, I was waiting to hear back from the Board of Health agent and didn't today, but I think Heidi confirmed with
She did.
the administrative
She did, I was there.
person that, that they had approved this. I don't know if they I was asking specifically to see if there was, the waiver request was approved, since this is in the 100-foot.
She said the approval of dimensions.
But the, yeah, she said the approval went out, but we didn't
Right.
get any details, so. it appears if we give our approval, this should be good to go. And I
Any
think-
questions?
No, none.
Al?
So what are we looking for on this?
Close an issue.
This is on 242-1693?
Yep, and it's drafted, so we can approve it tonight.
Okay, no questions.
No
Deb?
questions.
Motion, yes.
I move that we close an issue in 21 days.
Second.
Well,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. 242-1694, 25 Hidden Road.
So report.
Good, yep. Good.
Good evening, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagis, here representing the owners of 25 Hidden Court. This is a notice of intent that we filed. This is the second hearing. We presented the project at the last hearing, and at that point, we hadn't been assigned a DEP file number yet. Since then, we've been assigned a file number, and I spoke with the reviewer today, Heidi Davis, and she didn't have any comments. Nothing's changed since the last presentation.
Okay, Jack?
No questions.
Al?
None.
Deb?
No questions.
Sean? Motion?
Same request?
Same one, yep.
Move that we close an issue in 21 days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next one is 242-1692, 1210 Osgood Street.
Do you want anything specific up there? Or
No.
maybe the erosion control plan?
So good evening, folks. For the record, Mike Howard from Epsilon Associates. I'm here tonight on behalf of Princeton Development LLC and Forgetta Development. So this is our third hearing on this project. You'll recall at the last hearing, the commission was kind enough to give us a couple hours to talk through stormwater management and whatnot. That said, we had a couple of action items that we were instructed to work with Lisa on and coordinate with Jen on, which I'll summarize briefly, but big picture, they had to do with advancing the construction sequence a bit further and tidying up some of the plans and some final stormwater edits that Lisa had. I'll let Jen weigh in as she sees fit, but let me try and summarize where things are at, and I'll just start with a quick summary of the updates we made to the O&M plan and the plans. I'm just going to read from an email that Joe Pesnola had sent to Jen and Lisa last week, and I know Lisa had some comments today where, from what I can infer, she seems to be all set at this point. So just with regards to the O&M plan, we modified it to include some language regarding when the bay filters would be cleaned and maintained and replaced. You'll recall we had a pretty robust discussion about the timing of the cartridge replacement and whatnot. All the things that the commission asked for and the recommendations that Lisa made to the commission have been incorporated into that plan, including expanding the checklist, adding some language, making those commitments. We added another plan showing where these stormwater BMPs would be located. Joe added a new exhibit depicting the snow storage stockpile locations, or rather where the snow should not go. We also added some language regarding the maintenance contract. That was a big deal for the commission that we agreed to. So that's in there as well, too. With regards to the construction sequencing, we beefed up what were called phases 3 and 4. These had to primarily do with the comment that Lisa had about providing some additional detail on how those sequences would be advanced once impervious surfaces are being put down. That was the previous plan was silent on that topic, so Joe took it to the next level. As we told the commission at the last meeting, based on what we've submitted now to the commission, we feel like we've taken it as far as we can. We made a clear commitment to the commission that once the site contractor is on board, we will finalize the SWIP. I've had discussions with Jen about what some of those special conditions might look like to protect the commission's interest. We've committed to having the contractor come back to present it to the commission, however you word those special conditions. Jen and I have been talking about some potential language where the commission would retain the right to review and approve the SWIP, so you'll see those details in the construction sequencing, and we can give you some of the more precise, I think, feedback you're looking for, Mr. Chairman. So that information has been provided, and Lisa has reviewed that, at least to this point. And I think that's it. So Joe's been kind of working the stormwater end of things with Jen and Lisa. In parallel with that, as I mentioned previously, I've been working with Jen to suggest some special conditions that the commission can consider as you see fit that you might roll into the order conditions. They're still a work in progress, and really it's just to kind of get, I was trying to be responsive to the things you're looking for, and Jen has those now. I don't know that she's even reviewed them yet, but I know as you move forward to draft the conditions, you have some language from me that might address some of the concerns you had. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's a kind of a quick summary of where things stood.
Changes you've made are pretty responsive. It's, I guess, the nature of the project, the 100% build-out, or close to that, is the nature that we have here, and how you manage that stormwater during construction is an important point. Not sure I'm real clear on how well you addressed all of Lisa's recommendations, specifically on phase 4, how the discharge is controlled, and then her suggestion on using the ADS detention systems, to control discharge throughout the construction period. Those are definite improvements to your plan. I'm not sure we're all the way there yet, and we probably should leave the door open to, have some influence over that as the project, as a contractor selected, and after you break ground.
And we would concede you're not all the way there yet. We admit that, and we will get you there, but in order to do that, we need the contractor's input to put the real, kind of meat on the bones. And the draft condition that I suggested to Jen includes language to that effect, where the SWIP, once it's finalized, it will be submitted to the commission and your peer review consultant for review and approval before it's implemented. Ultimately, the final language of that commission is, of course, up to you, but I gave some starter language to get that process going.
That's all I have.
I don't have any questions.
Just a couple questions. Joe, at the last meeting, you mentioned, Joe Lynch recommended that maybe a subcommittee to review when you do the construction sequencing. I'd be in favor of that to meet with the contractor. We did that similar to Merrimack condos because it was such a contentious site. It went smoothly. It's not like we're going to tell a guy how to do his construction job. We're just trying to get a feel for it because it is quite a fill. Aside from that, the stormwater is there. That was very helpful to have Lisa here to reinforce, because there was a lot of technology that we're not privy to. So I thought that went well. I think the only thing is if the commission is fine with that, the O&M plan and the SWIP, so we can get that. And like I said, once you get the contract line, we can just sit down and go over the plans and he tells us how he wants to do it, and if we're well in favor of that, I think everything's a go.
Yeah, and that's your line of thinking, Mr. Chairman. It reflects the draft condition I suggested to Jen. I think I did suggest, what we don't want to do is submit it to the commission when we're ready to start construction like in 2 weeks. That's not fair to you.
Right.
And we can't have an expectation you're going to review it that quickly. I think I suggested 30 days or something, some sort of reasonable time frame for that review to occur.
Yeah, you can work that out with Jen, and
Yep.
then whoever wants to be part of the subcommittee, we just got to coordinate with them. I don't even think we need Lisa there. I think she's
They did
pretty
agree to
much
that, and
there.
I do think it's a good idea, because some of the stuff is engineering related, like her recommendation to use the subsurface detention potentially during that last phase of construction. Her concern is once there's a lot of pavement down on the site and the catch basins aren't taking the water, where's it gonna go? There's it'll be a higher rate of runoff at that point, and so she was you can't use the infiltrators at that point because you'll still have a dirty site, but you can potentially use the storage. There would just need to be provisions for cleaning it before you then put it online.
Yeah, if I think about it more, I think we had, Lisa, for the initial, committee meeting with.
We did have her at
we did
Merrimack
have her.
Condos meetings.
Yeah.
And,
We're not opposed to that.
and they proposed to escrow some funds to have that happen. So
Okay.
I think I put in my recommendations, maybe we want to talk about how much. I probably should have asked Joe what he thinks, but I think planning's, I mean, maybe 1,000. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
imagine it
not,
would be
this is,
that
it's
much.
probably a consultation, I mean, it's not a heavy lift, and we're happy to do that, Jen, it's fine. We can sort through those details with
Okay.
you, yeah.
Deb?
On this construction sequencing plan, Jen, there were a couple of notes on the pages. Who put those notes into the body of the paper?
Oh, so then she must have copied the one I was on the phone with Lisa with?
Okay. No, I just wanted to know if those comments,
I think those are my comments in
Were
discussion
addressed.
with Lisa.
okay.
Let me just
It was
look.
just your copy, you must be special. Oh, no, there it is.
No, you're special too.
Yeah, there it is, I see. So I have to decide.
So one of Lisa's comments was, they're proposing to rope off the infiltration areas so that they don't, I mean, we've talked about this on many of the sites, Merrimack Condos included. Her discussion was there's just a lot of underground infiltration, so if you rope off all these areas, again, it's a discussion with the contractor, are they gonna be able to abide by that? In the end, Merrimack was such a tough site, they ended up scraping out that material and bringing in new material because they couldn't do it. So, again, that's most of it was, we agreed was stuff that could be discussed with the contractor. My only concern, and I did present it late day to Joe Pesnola, was should it really say, just starting out, that those infiltrators, and I think that's still something we can get done, because we can't close tonight because we don't have an order drafted.
Just wanted to make sure that those comments.
They were addressed.
Okay, thank you.
That's not,
Jen, one of the notes I see on your recommendations is that you see a note on the erosion control plan showing silt fence behind the proposed filter sock, but the plans still show only filter sock around the entire site.
Yeah.
Is that something
That's
we
still
need to address?
something that somewhat worries me. You do see the note, it's kind of right over here where my arrow is, that it now shows the erosion control backed by, wait, if you think about this, how many acre site is it? 20-something acres, Mike? That just the perimeter erosion control shown as a silt sock seems really low-key in the erosion control plan. So I think we'll have to beef up our own condition, which is something we don't usually do, to say exactly what we want out there. There are lots of sediment, temporary sedimentation basins and swales, much like we saw on Merrimack. I hate to keep using Merrimack as the reference site, but that is really where we had one of our most comprehensive phasing plans. And if I recall correctly, too, on a lot of sites, such as the airport, and actually the airport had a really good phasing plan, which we did have reviewed by a consultant. And so far, so good on that. That's a huge site, all open. We also, on Boston Hill, put in a requirement, which I would think I would do on this site too, that they have all kinds of materials on site prior to construction for temporary erosion control, extra gravel, flock blocks, kind of the whole toolkit of things that they could use if there's problems. So that, in a rain event or when something's going wrong, we're not looking, we always have extra erosion controls on site, that's in all our orders, but kind of even beefing that up to make sure they're prepared.
Would you, I'm not sure what your thinking was, but would you, consider hay bales, in the vicinity of specific flags, on that, what, southern end of the site, is it?
Jen, I can weigh in if it'd be helpful. So we're not going to be using straw wattles as the primary erosion control. That note shouldn't be there. Jen, I don't know if you saw this email. I know you get a ton of them today, but Jen and I were swapping emails on erosion control today, and I just suggested a special condition to address this too. Again, it doesn't have to be this, but let me just tell you what I sent to Jen, if I could, Mr. Chairman. So draft condition, to address your point, Sean. Prior to construction and as part of the SWIP referenced in special condition XX above, the applicant shall submit a final revised set of site plans depicting sedimentation and erosion control barriers along the approved limit of work line that incorporates trenched wireback siltation fence and staked hay bales, or trenched wireback siltation fence and 18-inch diameter staked compost filter socks. Straw wattles are prohibited as a primary perimeter erosion control device. Moreover, the reference site plan shall be updated to depict these erosion control barriers in a continuous line along the entire limit of work, beginning at the property line at the southeast corner of the site near Wetland Series 1 to the property line at the northeast corner of the site. So that, when we do this, when we finalize the construction sequence plan and the graphics that go with it, again, you guys ultimately decide what that looks like, but that's what I was trying to do to address that concern. Yeah, I think we left off, your next hearing is 4 weeks away, so we talked about administratively, we'd want to continue it anyway because it's past the 21 days, but if we could work with Jen leading up to that, to close and issue a decision that night, that would be much appreciated. That would be our goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're fine with conditioning all these things, then I think we're there. It's just makes the orders a little more.
Doing it that way because it is a pretty big site and there's some pretty big fills. For us to try and speculate on how it would work, I think we really have to sit down and go over it.
Yeah, I mean, this project is going to have to be heavily monitored, and I know that goes without saying for you, Jen. You've seen enough of these, but I mean, the language of the phasing plan, has some general statements in it, and that's okay. Periodically clean, the areas in a timely way. Let me give you some examples. Yeah, on phase 4, periodically clean sediment and replace stone. Okay. Sweep and clean parking lots regularly. Those are judgment calls. So, I mean, Jennifer's got a routine. I'm just mentioning it for the record that that it just needs to be that way. That her opinion, and Heidi's opinion, being our field inspector, are the ones that make the call. That they make the call when the stuff gets cleaned and when stone gets replaced, and that comes with the broad language.
Understood.
I think we have to continue because we have 4 weeks until the next meeting.
Just to continue, there's no.
Right, but with the understanding, because it's important to the client to know that we intend to close and issue at the next meeting.
On the 11th of January.
Correct.
I'll move that continuance.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate it.
This one is 242 North Andover, 50 Royal Crest.
Just looking for the.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Kenneth Lania, Cornerstone Land Consultants representing the applicant this evening. Felt we got a new easement, seeing as I realized you didn't have one at the last hearing.
Because we,
Before you this evening for a notice of intent application, which you may recall at the last hearing I withdrew and reapplied for some incorrect paperwork that we had provided from our office that Jen had pointed out to us. We were able to revise that information and get it back to the commission so that we could appear this evening to go over the application for the off-site inlet project, which I believe is on also for an enforcement order later on in the agenda. This project was before you folks previously in the hopes that in year 3 of our 5-year plan, we would be able to construct this offsite inlet. But ultimately, we were unable to obtain the funding in year 3. And in year 4, we were hoping to get it done. And upon the work that you folks had provided a RDA for earlier this year, took precedent due to some Board of Health concerns at the property with the existing pond, as well as some other issues with the Board of Health on some new buildings that will require some foundation drainage work. But brings us to this particular filing. The hope with this filing is to continue to assist in the reduction of on-site stormwater runoff that is currently surcharging the existing drainage system, and in doing so, hopefully alleviate a lot of the flooding that occurs on-site and ideally creates the water issues on the property for both flooding with the residents as well as the clubhouse. This particular location is part of the G train, which I believe you folks might recall from our original first-year construction work. We chose to put in the G train in the old T-series wetland by buildings 1 and 2 along the main entry drive. This drainage directly feeds that original design. Upon completion of construction of that original drainage work in 2012, we've subsequently had some pretty heavy rain events. I wouldn't classify them as 100-year storm events, but a couple of back-to-back 50-year storm events have occurred. And I would say filled that G-train bioretention cell higher than I'm a little bit more comfortable to allow. So in doing so, we've crafted this offsite inlet to additionally reduce the flow heading to the G train so that we can ensure that both those systems will function in larger storm events. This particular drainage area is on the eastern side of the property, northeastern side, and it currently accepts in total along that property line about 38 acres of off-site drainage coming from the properties that are along the Chestnut Street area, the Montero Way subdivision, and the Quail Run Road subdivision. This particular photo behind you on the screen takes in primarily just the closed drainage systems for both Quail Run Road and Montero Way. Both of those drainage systems are emptied out into swales that you can partially see the swales on the plan set, and those swales directly enter into a drainage swale that comes onto Royal Crest property and then eventually enters into the drainage system through a 12-inch reinforced concrete pipe. When that swale overflows, which it does on a very regular occasion, the water builds up in the swale and then overland cruises down both the roadway towards buildings 24, 25, and 26, and also in the other direction towards building 11. And over the winter time, the flooding in that area gets very unsafe for residents as it ices over, probably somewhere around 8 to 12 inches thick. Our hope here is the installation of a sediment forebay to clean the water coming from both Montero Way and Quail Run Road, allow it a ponding area to remove pollutants. It will then overflow a weir made of riprap into a bioretention cell. The bioretention cell will be approximately 4,000 square feet. And the sizing of the cell was to ensure that, A, we were larger than the wetland area associated with the swale, which measures approximately 2,498 square feet, so that we could replicate that and suffice the requirements for the 1-to-1 replication ratio for the wetland disturbance. It had also come to our attention that there is an associated bank with that drainage swale. We've in turn coordinated with Jen and provided an Appendix A analysis of that bank in regards to wildlife habitat. The requirements under bank state that anything greater than 50 feet or 10% of the total bank area requires a wildlife habitat analysis. Our review only required us to complete an Appendix A analysis, as we did not trip any of the thresholds that would require a much more detailed study, Appendix B, and we've provided those findings to Jen at the beginning of the week. And our hope is to coordinate with the commission, answer any questions, and try to assist you folks in understanding how we're working these additional drainage modifications on the property to hopefully, at the end of next year, bring us into pretty much compliance for drainage on that property.
We waited for DEP last time, a long time.
Yeah, I know they have it. They signed for it December 8th, today being December, I don't even know what today's date is, 14th. I would say that they're, although they seem to be fairly quick on other projects, they don't seem to be all so quick on mine.
Well, I'm going to withhold my comments until after we hear from Lisa, but they might have some questions, Jeff.
Yeah, a question about the area that was cleared of trees.
Yes.
Was that area previously approved by the commission?
It was
to
not,
be
sir.
Cleared?
No, sir.
Okay, so it sounds like that was an unapproved action.
That is correct.
Okay, what happened?
Well, we, as you may or may not know, I think I've alluded to it a couple times before the commission previously, we've been replacing all of the secondary lines out at Royal Crest for a number of their buildings. They have all underground buried cable for both their primary services and their secondary services. And ultimately, they've been losing so many secondary services. National Grid came in, did a review of their electrical system, and determined that they needed to replace a good number of the primary direct burial services within the property. I was under the impression that they had come in, explained to you folks where they were going, what they were doing, and I had anticipated on having this project before the commission. A little bit of a discrepancy in my review of the channel that Jen had stated as BVW. I was under the impression that it was potentially not. So I kept all the tree removal to assist National Grid with their primary line installation outside of the 100-foot area of the N-series wetland, but not out of the 100-foot area of the P and O series BVW. And as a result, I'll take the blame for that. I apologize.
But how close did we get to wetland flags?
I would say we're to the P flags. Jen, if you can you pan back in on that photograph?
We also have a photo of the clearing. Heidi estimated it to be about, oh great, I just lost the whole thing. About 20 to 30 feet.
Yeah.
So you can see the pink flag in the front of the, Heidi said that tree that fell toward the wet, like there's debris very close to the wetland, but you can see the clearing is farther away.
If I had to estimate, I'd say 25.
Okay, that's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
It is in like lawn treat area, and it would, if the
Yeah,
project's
I know.
approved, would be in the area of the bioretention cell, but obviously the project's not approved. I did write an enforcement order and issue it, but I did say that the review and possible restoration would be coordinated under the already filed NOI.
Okay. My only other question is, do these two drainage systems, do they treat the same water, or is it different? runoffs? Like the source from behind Quail Ridge Road obviously goes into that primary basin by building number 14.
That is correct.
But then we've got, below the match line, buildings 25, 24.
Yep.
Is that a different system altogether, or do these two systems communicate?
Yeah, so it collects the drainage runoff from that portion of the property over on Montero Way as well.
Okay.
So the main roadways themselves come into the upper system, which is why it's so much larger with the sediment forebay and the bioretention cell. The other systems on the lower end of the plan for the match line by 24, 25, and the maintenance facility building, really collecting just overland flow from other structures up on Chestnut Street.
That's
So it's
what I was looking
much less of a peaked flow
for. Yep.
coming into those two systems. So the goal of those two systems is really just to redirect the water, because what happens is that closed drainage system in the driveway along 24, 25, 23, and eventually coming out to the clubhouse is significantly overtaxed.
Okay. No more questions?
Just to note, who went on the site visit when we held one? Did you go, Jack?
I was the one, probably not for
This particular.
Because I know there was a lot of discussion when we were out there. This will require clearing on the second. The first one works on wetland, but I think for those who were out there, this first project, just pull in closer because I do want the commission to understand. The first one, there is BVW associated with this channel that's out there, and the channel does come directly out of detention stormwater that's off of Montero and Quail, developed long before there were stormwater standards, so it just discharges. And then when it gets to the Royal Crest site, it actually disappears into what should be a catch basin. I think it's a buried catch basin. They may have unburied it, but so it really is sort of a system that, if altered, will more than likely function better. And I think we definitely, Lou was there and Lisa came out to the site on the site visit. But the second system will clear the 25-foot no disturb, but the new basin will be right next to the wetland. And it is, you can see in the photos, vegetated, treed. So it will require a waiver, and it will, I think there was some discussion at our prior hearings about, you can already see over to Montero Way. It's not like you can't see those houses when the vegetation's gone, and there is a vigorous planting plan proposed for the basin and everything, but it will be removing a substantial number of trees adjacent to the wetland. So, and Lisa is going to review, so there will be a lot more input and time for discussion, but just so you sort of understand the nature of what's going to happen out there.
Thank you. So you need a motion?
Move to continue to January 11th?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, enjoy your holiday.
You too.
Thanks, Ken, you too.
See you next year.
What's that? For,
Already, time
oh,
flies,
okay.
fun.
Are we going to, you're not planting till spring, so we can discuss replacement plans. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Next one is an enforcement order at 255 Hay Meadow.
So we did receive a delineation as was required. I'm going to try. I couldn't get it to scan in correctly and flip and all those kinds of fun things, but you can see a sketch of the new wall that's out there, as well as where the wetland is. It's right at the toe of the slope of that wall. My estimation is that it was actually where, previously probably would have been where the wall is. But that said, it is there now. It is serving a function and a purpose, as was described by the homeowner who is here this evening. In the past, any structure which you thought was reasonable to keep and maintain going forward has been, after the fact permitted. I know the homeowner has expressed some concerns about hardship at this point, so, take that into consideration. But I do think a permit's required. One of the other issues we run into in permitting this is that there is not a certificate of compliance on the house either. We usually don't issue new orders until old orders are closed out, so I do think some kind of survey plan of the property is needed going forward. That would close out the old order and allow permitting of the new work. Just my...
I think Jen's recommendation is straightforward. I think a 6-month window is above and beyond the call of duty, based on what we have for information. So I would definitely go with Jen's recommendation. Jack, you have any more input on it?
I agree entirely. I think it's totally reasonable.
Just so I understand, the recommendation is
6 months
allow the applicant 6 months to,
get an NOI and
well, he'd have to get a
After the
COC first,
and an NOI at the same time.
and then file an NOI for the new work after the fact.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Great. Sean?
I don't agree.
You don't? Okay.
I just don't, I mean,
What are your recommendations?
I don't know if I have a great recommendation, other than to not issue a certificate of compliance on something that, where somebody is, without any authority, put a wall in a wetland, it sounds like.
Well, we're not issuing a COC.
Well, we're being asked to close out the old order by issuing the COC.
No.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
In 6 months.
I do think, if you look at the filing for the old house, the wetland delineation was somewhat different. I think there are beavers that are active in the area. So I think the wetland delineation... No, not right now, but I think the wetland delineation back then is different than the wetland delineation now. And the work that was done to build the house and the driveway is... The plans aren't great, that era. It's old. It's what, 458. So what we have for proposed plans, if he gets an as-built plan of the property, I think we'll be in a good place. There is a crossing. I mean, it's there. It's been there for a long time. That hasn't been updated. I think that's why this is largely separately permitted. So I think closing out the old project is not an issue. I think if you potentially have issues, it's probably in approving new work after the fact.
Which is the wall, is what
Right.
you're talking about.
Which is
Right.
also the wall is already existing. I added some border for the safety concerns.
I know, we've
That's
had
the
that,
only
we've
thing.
had that song.
Yeah, we know.
Right. So what
See-
the new wall goes out farther into the wetland than
No,
the...
it's not. It's the same place. It's never reached anywhere, no adjustment or nothing happens actually. It just added
Do
the
we have
stone.
historical photos of this?
We don't have
property?
historical, I was out there before this wall was constructed because I was asked about it. There is a retaining wall there. The wall that's there is much more substantial than the wall, so, I don't think that there's necessarily thousands of feet of wetland fill. There is probably some impact at the toe of the slope because the boulders are bigger than what was there before. This wall is more substantial than the wall that was there. I agree there was a wall there, but he was saying, when he first brought me out to the site a couple of years ago, that wall, the pavement was crumbling off the edge, the boulders were, being undermined. There was an issue. So it is a more substantial wall, but I don't think it's not in a different location than the prior wall.
It does, what you don't seem to understand is that you're in violation, and that you're in a violation. Normally, we would just go forward and issue an enforcement order, and conceivably, we could make you take the wall out
One more thing I will ask.
It doesn't matter. So
One more thing.
we've been going through it above and beyond, giving you as much flexibility as we can based on your hardship. But
It's
now-
not even a hardship. This is a safety thing. What I'm trying to say is, it's already existing. I just added for the safety. This is which I want to trying to explain for her also several times. The reason is I have no idea what happened 2010 before the houses happened. I have no record in the town also. That means how do I take the existing people, whatever they did it's my responsibility. That's my question. So the next thing is I'm asking is, this is the safety reason this has happened actually. There is a couple of incidents trying to happen by the UPS truck and USPS truck. They are trying to come to deliver the mail. They kind of run over because driveway is very small and I didn't extend anything. For safety reason, I just added some big boulders to keep it. That is the only thing I kind of saying that. It's as per her, the whole driveway is crossing the whole wetland. All these years I kind of love it and then not doing anything actually. I didn't add anything, I didn't do anything. That's I showed the picture of 2011, which is already have a boulder already there. This is the another one. Even the contractor didn't do the proper job. They just left hanging the halfway actually. That's what I'm trying to say. How do I, as a second owner or third owner, for me is according to the record is a second owner, how do I responsible for the existing happens thing, whatever it happens? The driveway has never been extended. I truly, can swear myself, and then I can do whatever. I showed the picture of previous existing driveway and today's driveway. Nothing changed layout actually. I take care of the wetland in this area. That is the one thing. First of all, if I want to violate the whole thing, I never called Jen about this one. If I want to, I can keep it, hide it, and do whatever I want it.
Not really, because what happens is now, today, with the way the mortgage companies and banks are, if there's any outstanding orders, they want them closed. So in the twofold, we're kind of helping you in the fact that we're closing the old order conditions and issuing you with COC to close out. And then you do the after-fact NOI, and then we go, that's a whole different animal. But without that COC, you wouldn't get clear title, and the mortgage company might not conceivably give the person that wants to buy your house a mortgage. So the order is outstanding. It's a violation no matter if you went and fixed the wall or you still had to come before us. So you invite, regardless of the safety, regardless of whatever, you still had to file, which you didn't file.
That's the one thing I will tell you. This contracting company, they told me they are going to file me. Right now, I'm fighting them with the court. They are not appearing in the court. They are not returning anything. Now I'm chasing them actually.
It's a responsibility of the homeowner to make sure that everything's in place and things aren't being violated. It's like you hiring somebody to put an addition on your house, and they're supposed to be putting a deck, and they put it on an addition. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility.
It's my responsibility, but this filing is done by those people actually. Yeah. Even the Lowe's, when they did it, they said that we are filing it. But I, as a consultant previously, I kind of run around this one. So I will trusted them, because if I want to file myself, I can able to come to the city and file it actually. But they say that we are going to do it, then that is a trust relationship. That's what the homeowners can do. Like as a house owner, even you guys are also house owners, and you guys are not allowing trusting the contractors to file the claims, and you are trusting them. If they are not doing, later I found out from her only, they didn't file it. Then I started chasing them. So it's like what I have to do? Is it do I have to untrust everyone here?
No, I think maybe it would be worthwhile to maybe get a clarification of what the procedure is, and that's best done with our staff. But I think the main steps you have are, first of all, for the COC, you need to get an as-built plan done, and that needs to be done by a professional land surveyor. And but that helps you because number one, it gets you your COC, and then number two, that serves as an accurate plan for you to then submit your your request for notice of intent for the retaining wall and do everything on the up and up. I think those are the major steps that you have to go through. And I'd encourage you to start right away because these things do take time. I think 6 months is a reasonable amount of time to get all this done, but I think those are the main things. I'd ask you to, take it to our staff to maybe talk over the nuts and bolts of which forms you need and who generally represents you, in
No, I got the
hearings
form
like
from
this.
her. It comes
So,
around 7 to
yeah.
10 grand, which is, I have no idea why I have to get a COC kind of thing, which is an existing build and approved by the whole thing. That's a process. That means I am taking a liability of the existing owner, whatever they did it, whoever the builder is allowed the property, all the stuff, it's come on me. So this one, I am paying for my price. That's what my question is.
Yes.
And also, whatever they did it, the city has no records on it. In that case, how do I will take a responsibility which is already done by the whole driveway system and everything is there. In that case, it's like
Your title search, the people that did the title search, when did you buy the property?
2010.
The people that did the title search for you did not see this open order of conditions, and they didn't do you a good service by not advising you of that when you bought the house. But our procedure is that we issue order of conditions, and then the closure on our order of conditions is this COC, Certificate of Compliance, and that's when the title is wiped clear of any conservation
That's
liens.
the same thing what Commissioner is saying, that is the homeowner responsibility. As a first-time homeowner, I will trust the title guy to look for it. Not for me, I run around to know all the laws of each and every step of the whole laws and everything is, it's as a homeowner, there is no way to do it. 100%. Everyone has to agree with that actually.
You hired
Because
somebody to
we
do
are
that
hiring
in
the consultant.
2010, and maybe they didn't do a thorough job because this was passed on to
That's what
you.
it's everything, the trust relationship come into
But
picture.
that's nothing we can resolve tonight.
Yeah. And also I told them it's like, and it's going to be cost me this much time and I cannot able to do it with the current situation, what I'm having it actually.
That's why we're giving you 6 months. It's the way it is. It's the law. It's, our hands are tied also. We can't just say, okay, you're all set, and then you walk out the door, and the next applicant comes in, and we want the same from them, and they say, well, you just let the guy walk out the door, and he was all set. We have to be consistent, and we have to follow the rules. So, I mean, we've been giving you plenty of time. It took us how many months to get the delineation? 4 months, Jen? 3 months?
Do we have an open enforcement order on this?
We
right
have an
now?
open enforcement order, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, I understand Sean's apprehension because I'm not, we're not making any promise to you. We're not making any guarantee to you. We're willing to give you 6 months to file for a certificate of compliance and to file for a notice of intent on the new work. We're willing to give you that. You're not being fined at this time. And
What?
we're not making any promises or guarantees to you that we will issue you the COC until we have a chance to look at it and review it. So I just want to make that real clear. There's no promise, inducement, or reward here. There is simply the opportunity for you to square away your paperwork. And we're willing to give you, it sounds like we're willing to give you 6 months to do that, penalty-free. Your choice. I can assure you of this, at the end of 6 months, if you haven't filed and you still insist upon arguing with us, I'll make the motion to start $300 a day fines until you get it done. So, choice is yours.
What is COC?
Pardon me?
What is COC?
A certificate of compliance on your property, and once you get a certificate of compliance on the property, then you can file a notice of intent to attempt to approve the new work that you have done with the stone wall. That's the order it has to be done. Jennifer has recommended that we give you 6 months to get that back before us. Under normal conditions, you'd be receiving a fine of $100 a day for every day you don't do the work. You're not being fined at this time. You're getting a Christmas present. You
No,
really shouldn't be arguing with us.
I'm not getting a Christmas present.
Well,
This
I
one
can
is
assure you,
like,
you are. We could.
This is what I'm paying for the existing owner, whatever it is.
This is your house. This is your house.
It's currently, I agree with that,
You own
but
it, so
the
this is
one thing,
This is your problem. This is your problem. This is not ours.
okay.
And I'm saying to you that I will vote to give you the 6 months penalty-free, but I'm not making any promise that I will approve it in 6 months until I see it.
So after COC, what is going to be happen, actually?
Then you would have to file a notice of intent to get the new work that you did without a permit approved.
That is 7 to 10 grand they are requesting.
I have
okay,
no
and then-
idea who you've been talking to. I think you probably need to talk to more people, because there's a lot of fluctuation in pricing.
Then there is the same thing is going to come into picture, because someone will say that is happened.
You need a registered professional land surveyor to do the survey so that you can file for a certificate of compliance. You have to do it. It's your house, it's your problem, you have to do it. If you don't get a certificate of compliance, you will be unable to either sell or refinance the house because your title will be clouded. So it is up to you how you want to proceed.
But there is no COC before in this house.
Correct.
Which is why you have to square it away. It's your house. Or if you want to, you can hire an able counsel and sue the title company that told you you had clean title.
Well, you don't want to go that far, but you purchased a house that didn't have a certificate of compliance. For good or for bad, that's what you did. I'm sorry you did. And I'm sorry if you find me to be a stickler because of the position I'm taking, except as Lou very accurately defined my thoughts. Every applicant that comes in front of us, we have to treat equal, regardless of the circumstances that they're in. And I can't sit here and do my job for the future applicants and look back at the past ones that I haven't allowed by, closing a blind eye to some of this stuff. And I'm sorry if I know that position
that's-
isn't helpful to you, but that's just my perspective.
That's fine, but whatever the previous people did it, they get away with it, actually. They get away with the whole thing, whole
Not-
process.
not-
They had to do the
If they
whole
did, they
CDC
pulled
or
one over
something.
on me. I try to do a pretty good job of not allowing that to happen.
But how does the CDC or COC is not applied from the previous owner?
There've been plenty of people.
Or from the
Well, it should be picked up in a title search. You may not have had a title search done. It's usually the mortgage company that pays to have that done. If you had a mortgage company,
I switched to 4 mortgage companies. Nobody issued any issues on this house, actually.
That's interesting.
The next one.
Yeah.
What can I do? If I switched it, they did all the jobs. But
We can't do a title search review for you. We can't recommend who to do it. We simply can tell you that where we sit right now, it's not trying to be a wise, but it is your problem right now.
okay.
It may not have been recorded. That's one of the ways it could have slipped through.
Well, I don't know, but 6 months is 6 months penalty free to start to square it away. I think that's a gift.
This is part of the that was 60-some.
He bought it 3 years. He bought it 3 years ago. 2 years ago? It should have been
2010.
2010, 7 years ago. They were able to do a competent title
This
search.
was
in
permitted in 88. GMP Realty
So we need a
Trust.
motion to ratify the enforcement, change, modify it.
Are we modifying the enforcement order to include the
Give them
language from the
six-
recommendation? Is
6
that
months to file for the COC and a new NOI.
so? In other words, what you want basically is you want the enforcement order to be modified or amended to include your recommendation.
Well, we've had multiple enforcement orders. The current one told him to get the delineation for this meeting, which he did.
Let's say he got
So
a
now-
delineation. Now we're saying you have 6. We're saying he needs to file by June 29th to be on the July 12th meeting with a certificate of compliance request, and then to follow that with a notice of intent on the unpermitted work. Do I have it correct?
In the meantime, you're gonna have to get yourself an engineer to produce an as-built for your COC request. So that'll be the next thing. The next thing you'll have to do is find your engineer to survey the property and where everything is. So that when you come to your COC, we'll have an as-built to look at, and we can go from there. And have to file an after the fact NOI for you all. That's the only way, we have to do the process just like everybody else. Sorry.
So I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. And then one opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Before that, I want to recognize the officer Tom for the last incident happens to me. Thank you.
I have no idea. And just what he may have been referring to was at the last meeting, he had a medical situation.
Yeah, but I didn't understand.
But what he just said, I didn't quite understand.
understand
And I'm not really, I'm not going to worry about it.
All right, next one is 83 Campbell Road, and Jen's recommendation is to continue till January 11th.
When this will be actually, I don't think a continuance is needed. We issued the EO, we told them to get a plan and everything and file by a certain date. Everything, all the work was done on time, but something happened with the after-the-fact RDA filing, and it didn't end up on until the next meeting. So it'll be on the next agenda, and I think they're in compliance with their enforcement order, so it's more of just an enforcement order update.
Okay.
No action. All right, next one is 203 Katuitt Street.
That's,
So are you
Oh,
here
yeah,
for a
there's
particular?
request to continue.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I wanted to make sure if we were missing you somewhere in here. 203 Katuitt, the homeowner called. They were supposed to submit something by 12/2. Heidi followed up. We received a call and then a subsequent email on 12/5 saying that the homeowner had been in the hospital and had missed the filing date, but intends to file, or Heidi recommends that he asked for a continuance and that we grant that for the December 29th filing date. So amend the order to give him the extra weeks to get that done.
so you want to continue to January 11th?
We'll amend the required by date on the EO.
Okay,
That requires a motion.
I'll move it.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. The next one is 50 Royal Crest that we already discussed, right?
Right, so 50 Royal Quest, I just requested continuance to the 1/11 meeting because we're dealing with it as part of the NOI, and that's when the NOI is continued to.
Okay, so 50 Royal Crest, we're going to continue action on the enforcement until January 11th. So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1169. Guess what? We're waiting for plans. Request to continue to January 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Now we have his decisions. The first one is Johnson Street, 242-1693.
Some things just don't go well.
So I don't think 808 Johnson could be any more boilerplate. All work is outside the subzones, so $1,500 bonds, wetland markers. I believe there was a construction access and stockpile were shown on the plan, so no issues with that, and there were no violations that need to be rectified, so.
Okay, any questions?
None.
Motion?
Motion approved is drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1694, 25 Hidden Road.
I think this one also is fairly standard. There was a brush pile in the no disturb zone, so there is a condition in here about removing that. I think we saw in the photos and on the plan that there was a stone wall currently at the edge of the cleared yard. And I think we talked about when they redid their grading and brought their fill in and extended the yard, that they would put that stone wall. It's not a very, fortuitous stone wall, but it is a stone wall, and it does demarcate the lawn now, so I think it'll continue to do so, and I believe Greg agreed to that at the last hearing. My only other thing is, they don't anticipate any dewatering, but I want them to make sure, condition 57, that, when they go to remove the pool, that anything they discharge from that pool has been dechlorinated prior to discharge. My guess is it's an old pool, and they're just it's been sitting, and there's no chlorine left.
It's
But
a lovely shade of brown.
But I did put that in condition 57, so that we don't have any issues when that goes to happen.
When they dewater the pool, where's the water going?
I'm assuming they're just going to discharge it to the backyard.
So they're gonna create like a level spreader on the lawn?
Pretty much.
I mean, I have no problem if, well, I have no problem if they want to do that, to discharge it to the lawn, but there is a very handy resource area right there that,
Yeah, we can,
I'd like it not to go directly into the resource area. I have no problem with the dewatering,
why don't we
no
move the
problem.
dewatering condition to prior to construction, so we get that worked out?
Just wherever it's gonna come out. If it hits the lawn and the lawn acts as a spreader, that's great. No problem. I have no objection to that. I just want something.
Okay. I'll add that, I'll move that condition into the prior to construction, they have to provide the plan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
We're adjourned. Merry Christmas.